Okay.
Yes, let's go. So, Anahita, welcome to the Healthy Science podcast interview series. And I'm
Thank you.
so grateful that you have made the time to talk to us about mental health in academia and also your own experience within this, which is, I think, a very can be very inspiring. And yeah, I would just want to start, give you the floor about a little introduction about yourself.
Mm? Yeah, sure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. My name is Anahita Amirpour. I'm a PhD student at Karolinska Institutet in Stockholm, Sweden. My research field is in medical science. But before going back to academia, I had a long clinical career as a nurse anesthetist. So I've been working in a hospital environment for about 10 years, 11 years before enrolling in a PhD. So it's been quite an adjustment. And besides doing my research, I also work as a productivity coach, which is focusing on academia and providing coaching for PhD students. And yeah, in my free time, I love hiking, being outdoors, and I love exercising. It's like been one of the greatest pleasures. Also, when I recovered from different health issues such as burnouts, exercising has been like very, very helpful for my mental health and physical health as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And how do you feel about those going hand in hand? Because I think we agree on on that topic. Like physical health is just as important as mental health because it's sort of, you know, powers one another. And yeah, just
Yeah.
wanted to hear your opinion about it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's kind of for me, it's been I get like less sick by exercising regularly. Like I get like my immune system is more boosted and I also feel more like at ease and because I can walk and do activities freely, I think that is also something that gives you kind of empowers you that you do not feel that you're completely exhausted as so on. So I think in those cases has been the most important for me that that I feel that I am strong and that I have the endurance to do things. And I think that also affects me kind of mentally as well, that I can withhold and be more resilient to
Yeah.
different aspects in the research or and also personal life if something is coming up
Yeah.
that you're struggling with in particular. So I think that's definitely yeah, that's why I do it. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. And you said the transition from clinical to research was quite a transformation, sort of. Was a
Yeah.
completely different world. Can you share a bit more about that?
Yeah. I think the biggest difference for me is that I don't have a job anymore, which is connected to a specific place, which is the hospital. So I couldn't go home and anesthetize people, obviously. But as a researcher, you can work whenever, and there are usually no boundaries for when to stop and when to start, which has been the biggest adjustment because at the hospital you have very rigid time frames where you work 7 a.m. to like 3:30 p.m. And then when you leave work and you switch off work.
Yeah, it's
So
done.
in that yeah, it's done. And in that case, it's been like the biggest adjustment that now I need to be more rigid in myself to prevent myself from working all the time. And in the beginning, it was difficult because I had no previous experience of doing a PhD, obviously. So in the beginning, I had very much more difficulties at being more rigid with my boundaries of work and to separate like work life. But nowadays, I am very firm with that. So I only work Monday to Fridays as I did in the hospital when I was working at a day clinic, and I'm free on my weekends, and I prioritize like doing relaxing activities or just resting, basically. So I think that's where I really try to prioritize for my own health and also to not become overloaded with work and information all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such it sounds like it can be a real challenge. But it also gives you a lot of freedom, right? So it's a
Hmm.
bit of a dilemma, I can imagine. So
Yeah.
what was it more a challenge for you, or do you also feel like, hey, this is the freedom I can really enjoy?
Yeah, I think it's been both. Definitely both. I think the freedom is certainly an aspect I really enjoy because I'm not forced to go up like 5 a.m. anymore. I can't sleep in some days if I had a bad nights of sleep. I'm not forced to go in because everybody's counting on me in the operation room, right? So in that sense, the freedom is great, and I can, if I have like an appointment during daytime, I can just adjust my work and do my work in the afternoon. Or if I have been busy the whole day with appointments for different matters, I can work in the evening instead. So in that case, the freedom is great. The negative aspect is that it's like the work is never done, so it's like endless work, and you need to be stopping yourself from trying to do everything because otherwise you will just get exhausted and fatigued and overwhelmed. So I think that is the negative aspect of not having like firm set of when to start working and when to stop, because there's always something to do in research. You're never done.
Yeah. And how do you then, because I think this is also very nice to hear for the listeners, how do you then stop yourself? How do you prevent yourself from working all those extra hours and all those extra to-dos?
Mm. I think it's for me it's been a lot of working with myself and what kind of image I have of myself, of being like a high achieving, hardworking person, which I've been all my entire life since I was like a child. I've been studying very hard all the time, and that's how I was brought up basically. So for me, it's been a lot of inner work to kind of accept that I can't do that every day, and that is totally fine. And I need to do certain things to prevent myself from getting overworked, since I've been overworked in my career and at the clinic. So I know like the negative aspects of overworking are so big and life changing that I don't want to end up there again. So that's why I need to be more firm with what I do and what I do not do, and I don't need to be like the the highest achiever or perfectionist anymore. I don't enjoy being being like that, and it doesn't make me happy either to always do hard work, because I'm more maybe focusing on what I value in life, and I value a lot more other things than just my career. The career is before was a part of my identity in some way, as being working at the hospital, working as a nurse anesthetist. It was, yeah, I mean, it became a identity, but I'm trying to not identify myself as strong with my work anymore. I identify myself with values like family and friends. I enjoy being with them, or doing like hiking or being outdoors, or some that these are things that I really also value and appreciate a lot, and I want those things to have a take a bigger space in my life than it had before.
Yeah. So I always tell people, like, a PhD is not your life, it is part of your life, right?
Yeah,
And that's
that's right.
actually what you're saying as well. Like, it's important, but other things are also very important, and
Hmm.
you want those things to be a part of your life, and focus more on values instead of all these results. I
Yeah.
think you've also wrote a post about it, right? Like, to really focus on the process instead of all these end achievement goals.
Hmm.
and results that we're so familiar with within academia.
Yeah, that's right. That's correct. And I think that's something that is a constant inner work to kind of because sometimes I get kind of obsessed with outcomes as well. I mean, yeah, I'm a human
Yeah.
being,
Yeah, exactly.
but I always try to kind of if I notice that I'm like, okay, oh, this publication or this study or whatever, the data collection, I try to focus on like the process instead and to see it like, okay, I'm learning. I'm developing new skills. It's fine if not everything goes as I expected or others expected of me because these things are outside of my control.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we can't control everything and we just need to accept that. And I think it will release a lot of emotional tension to also think about life in that way and also like our jobs within academia as well.
Yeah. Do you think that result focus is also one of the problems in academia nowadays? That it's also not helpful for the mental health because it's such a huge problem now in academia.
Mm. Yeah, I definitely think it's one of the reasons that it's very focusing on like uh, I mean, there's like if you're not publish anything, you're a bad researcher, or you're not someone to care to even take it care of, right? You don't
Yeah,
care about what they've done because they don't have any publications, and that is something that is very result driven. And I mean, there's so many PhD researchers who get their doctoral degree without publications, and they're not bad researchers for that, you know?
no,
So in terms of the the all or nothing, this black and white thinking, like bad and good, that's definitely a huge issue in academia. And I think since academia is filled with a lot of perfectionistic people and high
definitely.
achievers,
Yeah,
it requires a lot of work to kind of change this dynamics and like not only in like how they talk to each other, but also what kind of behaviors they praise, right? So if you're a high achieving person who works 7 days a week and you like publish 15 articles per year, you're like, wow, this is an amazing person. They're so hardworking. uh, that they are so successful, and that type of appraisal, it's not helpful because it's puts others that person on pedestal, and
yeah,
that type of way of living I don't think is sustainable. And I don't think those that certain person maybe has a good health or mental health for that matter, because it's not normal to work 7 days a week, 10 hours per day without recovery. I mean, that's nothing to be praised. That's something we need to question and like, okay, hey, how are you doing? How are you holding up? Like, is there anything, why are you working so much? Who asks that? Instead they're like, oh my God, they're so great.
yeah.
I
It's
don't,
that confirmation or yeah,
yeah, I don't approve
appraisal.
that at all.
Yeah.
I don't.
Me neither. No. No, because it also feels for other people, they start to look up to that person and also live up to that person. So they
Yeah.
feel like they should do that too. And this is also what is why academia gets so stuck, I think,
Yeah.
because it's maintaining sort of itself because of these people, achieving so many great things,
Mhm.
but we never question indeed what is the consequence of that or what at what cost that is. And for me personally, when I went through a burnout, I started questioning, hey, what do these costs weigh up to what it gets me, and do I want to live my life that way? And the answer was a straight up no. I really
Yeah.
don't want all these consequences any longer, and
Mm.
just be more relaxed. And yeah, that takes some inner work and a lot of change and experimenting. But yeah, I think it's good for people to hear a bit about your own experience regarding burnout, because you had it before you started a PhD,
Yeah.
and you started a PhD anyway. Sort of.
Yeah.
So I think people are afraid of getting burnout.
Hmm.
So when someone already had a burnout and goes into a PhD, I think that can be very inspiring type of choice.
Yeah,
So
for
tell us
sure.
a bit about your burnouts.
Yeah. So I got my burnout when I was working in the ICU during the pandemic and the COVID ICU. So as you might have read the news and seen the news, it was extremely difficult conditions to work in. So we were basically everyone was working 12-hour shifts at the
Wow.
ICU, and obviously 12-hour shifts are not sustainable for recovery or relaxing. And I did that in the night shifts. So I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
Wow.
And this period of time was not so long. It was only around 4 months I was working there. But in those 4 months, I didn't sleep anything. I slept around 3 hours per day. So it made me it made me kind of lose my mind, and it kind
Yeah.
of becomes so concrete and evident how important sleep is for our mental health and also our performance at work. Because if we're not rested, we forget things, we get forgetful, and like our problem solving skills get even less, right? And during that period of time, I didn't sleep well. I also had difficulties of eating, like eating well, because when I am working night shifts, I was usually feeling not having the appetite, right? So
Mhm.
that was in combination with not sleeping made me even more exhausted. So I lost a lot of weight because of not only the stress but also the decreased appetite. And when I was off work, I mean, I was off work several days in the week, but I couldn't sleep. So I didn't
Your rhythm
feel,
was
yeah, it was
messed up,
rhythm.
I
It
guess.
was all. So I was changing when I was working nights. I was working nights. So when I was off work, I was changing to days. So uh, the whole rhythm, the circadian rhythm was off. And I
Major,
had,
major jet lag
yeah,
constantly.
yeah, like
Yeah.
every day jet lag for 4 months. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had troubles doing like activities I enjoyed doing, like having my hobbies or meeting friends or whatever. I tried, but I wasn't really feeling like myself. I tried to focus on and to be more outdoors, to go into nature. And for me, that was really helpful. I mean, I couldn't go on long hikes, obviously, because I had no energy. I was like totally fatigued. But being in nature was really like therapeutical for me as well. So that was, yeah, I think that was it. And I also during the burnout, I also got like physical symptoms. So I mean, I was nauseous as I mentioned, but I also had stomach pain, and I thought that was like because of reflux and stuff like that, because of working nights. But I also had a lot of back pain, lower back pain, and I thought it's because of the bad ergonomics at the hospital and the nights. But the back pain just disappeared um, when I stopped working there and sleeping better and recovering. So I took time off 3 months doing nothing work related to recover and trying to get into routines, doing more activities that was recharging, and also getting professional help from a psychologist as well to work with different stuff that was related to the burnout. So I mean,
Yeah,
there
the
was a,
inner
a lot.
work more you
Yeah,
talked about it. Yeah.
yeah. So I also read a lot of books to kind of understand what was going on. Trying to educate myself.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah, it
did the
was
same. Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. You start looking for solutions, right? So,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah.
that's right.
Wow, but that must have been such a crazy period of time. Yeah. Yeah. And what do you think um is a yeah, why did you start a PhD? Weren't you afraid of all these stories about, mental health problems and and all that you were heading towards the same sort of burnout destiny again?
Mm. It's a great question. I think I got interested in doing research during my master's studies, and I applied to a PhD project like 1 year after graduating, and I didn't get it. I was rejected. So I always had it back in the back of my mind that okay, I will continue with my clinical work and clinical career, and to see when the next opportunity comes up, which because I wanted to have a project which was connected to my clinical work. So I wanted something connected to anesthesia, basically.
Yeah.
And it's a very niched thing, obviously. But when I was working in the ICU, there was a an opening coming. So I applied even when I wasn't feeling well because I also thought this is my way out of this dungeon hole at the ICU.
Yeah, yeah.
That's how it felt like to be stuck in a dungeon in this protective gown. I mean, it was not nice at all. It was horrible.
Yeah.
So for me, a PhD seemed like a great place to be at and somewhere I could develop my skills, like my research skills to learn, be more like develop more analytical thinking and not just be stuck in this hamster wheel at the hospital, because that's one of the reasons that I wanted to leave clinical practice. I didn't feel that I was like developing in the way I wanted to. I wanted to have something more intellectually demanding and not physically demanding. Obviously, now looking back, it's been like mentally demanding to enroll in a PhD program, but it's a totally different way than clinical work somehow.
Yeah.
It is. And I think I didn't really have the knowledge back then to how common it was to have different type of mental health issues while in grad school or
Yeah.
enrolled. Yeah, didn't know it was so common until I enrolled myself and I met other students and I started like reading about it more, and I was like, wow, this is a real issue here and it's not spoken about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it seems the way I hear you talk about what you want out of a PhD, it's all about, personal development and
Yeah.
developing personal skills, research skills. And I think that's a very nice mindset to go into academia with that kind of mindset, because that is definitely what will happen during your PhD. So there's no going wrong or failing in that, right? Because you will develop these things. To what degree, you don't know, but you will develop, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And I mean, everyone's journey is different, but
Hmm.
for me, those were their main reasons. And also, like, besides that, I also wanted to kind of do something that could improve the care for the patients at the hospital. So,
Yeah.
obviously, I wanted to do clinical research and not other types of research. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Noble goal is, I think, what everyone starts off with, right? In their
Yeah.
PhD, with ambition and enthusiasm to really make an impact or make a change somewhere they see uh, where it would be necessary. And
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
great. Yeah. So, because we're almost out of time, I just wanted to ask you about, because you coach now also a lot of PhD students
Mhm.
regarding their
Yeah.
mental health and productivity. So I was wondering, also for the listeners who are interested, how do you help? What do you do?
Yeah, sure. So I offer group coaching nowadays. So it is for every student who is struggling with being overwhelmed by tasks or struggling with a lot of self-doubt or imposter syndrome and perfectionistic tendencies. So the focus on the group coaching is uh, like one of the outcomes is to become more sustainably productive and what do I mean with that? Well, to know how to kind of be more mindful of your cognitive resources and not just waste everything for 10 hours and just working without breaks. So relaxing and recovery is also like a part of sustainable productivity, and to take real breaks and also do different proactive behaviors like meditation or exercising, like self-care, what you call in a
Yeah.
generic way. And then I also work on a lot on the mindset. So in the coaching, I focus a lot on like different exercises and coaching, which is rooted from acceptance and commitment therapy. So we use a lot of those types of strategies in the program, because most students that I have talked to and coached so far, they have a lot of mental barriers, and I can provide a student with 50 different productivity tools, but it doesn't have an effect if I don't work on the mind at the same time, right? So you
Yeah.
need to have both, and that's why I focus on the both two outcomes, like mindset and different strategies, basically.
Yeah.
So
That's
we meet
great.
for 3 months as well. So it's like weekly meetings, and it's like a safe space to share our struggles and so on. Yeah.
Yeah. And an online part, right? Where
Yeah, it's online,
there's a
definitely. Yeah.
whole, yeah, and also that there are yeah, there's a sort of library, or how would you like to call it, of
Yeah.
resources they can tap into. And
Yeah, I have like a course
yeah.
which they watch like in their own pace, and that there are videos, and then the coaching is live
Yeah.
online. So there's students from all over the world in different stages of their PhD enrolled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was
Thank
great
you.
to talk to you again.
Thank you.
So if people are also curious to hear more about you, yeah, you have Twitter, you have Instagram, you have LinkedIn, you're everywhere.
Everywhere.
So yeah, you're everywhere. But yeah, what name is they can find you the best?
Yeah, I think if I have to like grade the different platforms, I'm mostly active on Instagram. So that would be my Instagram handle is PhD Anahita,
Yeah.
and there I have posts, and you can DM me or whatever you have a question or you want to talk about something.
Yeah, definitely. And if you just want to listen or read a bit more, yeah, check out Anahita's Instagram. And we also did a live together,
Yeah, we
which is
did.
on there about our personal experiences, both our experiences regarding burnout. So if you're curious to hear more about that, you're more than welcome to watch the live. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and always feel free to indeed DM us, send us a message regarding any questions. We'll be happy to talk to you.
Mm,
All
awesome.
right. Thanks again.
Thank you. It's great talking to you. Take
All
care.
right.